What's up, y'all? Welcome to another edition of Tex-Trek's Officer's Vlog, a place where I can come to share my thoughts on all things Star Trek. And tonight there's something I need to get off my chest, and I feel this is something that really needs to be talked about, and that is Midnight's Edge, or more specifically, the way Midnight's Edge is covering Star Trek Discovery. For those who don't know, Midnight's Edge is a YouTube channel that has been growing in popularity recently. I'll be honest, I never heard of Midnight's Edge until they started covering the upcoming Star Trek show, and I hopped on Google to see what I could find out about them. According to this old Twitter account I found, Midnight's Edge is a source of news, reviews, and podcasts about your favorite dark comic book characters. Because we all know when you're a 14-year-old virgin hoping someday a girl will let you touch her boob, there's nothing cooler than the dark comic book characters. But it looks like this junior high maturity level Twitter account hasn't been touched since 2015. Midnight's Edge YouTube homepage seems to be a little bit more grown up. According to the YouTube channel homepage, they are a channel devoted to analysis and intelligent discussion of your favorite stories and characters, as well as their various film and TV adaptations. They claim to put all news and official statements into a wider context and ask the question no one else does, thereby providing you with a spin-free bigger picture. So yeah, I'm gonna have to call horseshit on that. Their No Spin Zone is about as spinner-fucking-loony as they come. So, let's take a look at some of the videos they've been putting out over the last year and see if I can explain why these clowns are frustrating the shit out of me. We're going to look at some of the misinformation they've been pumping out into the internet. I don't have time to cover every single thing that they got wrong, but I'm going to hit the key ones, and if you're a fan of the channel Midnight's Edge, maybe you should take a look at how inaccurate their information is, and maybe reevaluate if you want to continue supporting this channel. So the first video I'm going to talk about is from September 30th last year, and is titled Star Trek Discovery, Facts, Speculation, and State of Star Trek Today. Unlike their later unjustified bashing of Star Trek Discovery, this video is actually pretty positive and offers some good speculation. But then they spend a lot of time in the video talking about Axanar, of all things. And I think that was just because Axanar was the hot topic at the time, the lawsuit coming from CBS on a Star Trek fan film for the first time ever. And they kind of end the video on the note of suggesting maybe Star Trek Discovery is going to be telling part of the story that was similar to what Axanar was telling, or because Axanar and Star Trek Discovery would both be using Garth of Iazar, maybe there is some kind of ulterior motive to CBS suing the Axanar productions, but it was a pretty common theory back in the day. I think now we can look back and say, well, Axanar Productions was trying to raise money to build a fully functional studio that they could make other projects with, and that was probably why CBS had the problem. It was the first time a fan film was actually going to capitalize on their fan film of a property that they don't own. But that's not the clickbait type of, I don't want to call it journalism, but wannabe journalism, I guess, that Midnight's Edge would do. They want to sensationalize everything and take everything way out of proportion and try to spin the most interesting story out of it, even if it's not true or doesn't look like it's true. The next video we're going to talk about was posted March 2nd, 2017. That's called Star Trek Discovery in Trouble? Rumor Rundown. Okay, so this is where I start having an issue with Midnight's Edge. So just to put things in perspective, this video came out in kind of the worst time for Discovery News as far as the public image of the show. Brian Fuller had left, and at that time we didn't know why. The show had been delayed from January to May to an unspecified date later in the year, and the Axanar Productions debacle was no longer the hot topic. Now everyone was talking about, oh no, is there something wrong with the show? What's going on? I need instant gratification. I need reassurance. I need to see a trailer. I need to see something now. I need good news. And people were overreacting, and especially when you have guys like Midnight's Edge basically coming out and saying the entire show is doomed. It is going to be a master disaster. So this video starts off by mentioning the big cheese at CBS, Les Moonves, is still very confident on Star Trek Discovery. I mean, why wouldn't he be? It wouldn't make much sense for the top dog at CBS not to be hyping up the new Trek show. But then we cut to internet movie critic John Campea, a guy who has a lot more cred than Midnight's Edge, and he's saying,
I have no hope for this show. For a couple of reasons. Number one, I think if CBS really believed in it, they would put it on the network, as opposed to their streaming service.
So one thing about Star Trek Discovery, that to John Campea's credit, maybe he didn't know, but Star Trek Discovery was never, ever going to be on normal CBS. The plan from the very beginning, from when it was first announced, was that it was going to be on CBS All Access. The show was created to be on the streaming service. That has always been the intention behind Star Trek Discovery. So it's not really fair to say that putting it on All Access is a sign of a lack of confidence. And as I'm going to explain, it's actually a sign of extreme confidence in the show. So CBS knows something that a lot of us know, and that's that the future of television is in streaming services. Right now they have a current business model with their network that is currently successful, has been for a while. They like to take these shows that they can milk 22 episodes a year out of, and these shows get insanely high ratings. CBS loves to remind everyone every commercial break that they're America's most watched network, and it's true. But these shows are normally watched by an older crowd, and this demographic has been very profitable for CBS for a long time. The thing is that those older fellows that like to watch 60 Minutes and every CSI and NCIS spinoff that CBS pumps out, those people ain't going to be around forever, and in 10 or 20 years they're going to start dying off quickly. So CBS knows that they need to branch off into something else. They want to have this streaming service. They want to become this entity that can compete with Hulu and Netflix and Amazon Prime, stuff like that. And the fact that they're selecting Star Trek Discovery to be what they're pushing into this new territory with, I think that's an extreme sign of confidence. You know, they're putting a lot of money and a lot of faith into this show because they're basically hoping that this will be the future of CBS. And if you're one of these people who think that, well, CBS just should have put Star Trek Discovery on their normal network, that's foolish, and it wouldn't be good for Star Trek Discovery. That older demographic that watches CBS, that loves to watch that, those people aren't really into genre shows. They tried to put Supergirl on CBS and it didn't work. It couldn't get the ratings to justify its slot on CBS when you could just put another fucking NCIS spinoff there and you'd get 6-7 million views per episode. Supergirl couldn't cut it, and they had to move that show to the CW. We can take a look at the CBS ratings if you want some numbers. So a lot of the shows on CBS have 10 million views per episode, which is insanely high numbers. You know, if you look at the 2017 numbers, they canceled all these shows that came up with less than 5.5 million views per episode. Just to put that into perspective, a super popular genre show like Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead gets into that 10 million viewer per episode range. But typical popular genre shows like Supergirl or Flash, they come in around 2 to 3 million views. And that's fine because the CW doesn't have the performance expectations of America's #1 network. even other shows on HBO or AMC, the homes of Game of Thrones or The Walking Dead, they don't come close to CBS numbers. With HBO's number 2 show, Ballers, coming in at 2.5 million views per episode, and AMC's number 2 show, the Walking Dead spinoff Fear the Walking Dead, coming in around the same. Even super popular shows like Breaking Bad and Mad Men only had about 2 million to 4 million views per episode. And sure, they might have done considerably better if they were on CBS, which more people have access to, but CBS would never justify the budgets and creative freedoms that these shows need. You couldn't have had Breaking Bad on CBS. You couldn't have had Game of Thrones on CBS. That's not their business model. Instead of doing something like that, they're going to put a reboot of The Odd Couple or MacGyver or something like that and milk 22 episodes a year out of it with a much smaller budget. The Discovery budget, it was around $6.5 million per episode, which is huge. Pretty strong show, pretty strong sign of confidence. And that's recently been increased to $8 million per episode. If this was on CBS, you'd be lucky to get $3, maybe $4 million per episode, and that would be stretched out to 22 episodes. So your writers would have to produce more scripts. Your actors and your crew on set would have less time to shoot everything. It would be a lower quality show, and not only that, but it wouldn't be getting the 6 million views it would need to justify its slot on CBS. And that's just not a network that people who watch genre shows are going to be checking out. So, sorry, John. I know a lot of people like your opinions on movies, and you seem like a really nice guy, but you're dead wrong on this. Numbers don't lie. It's clear that CBS would not make a good home for a high-budget genre show, and it was never going to happen. But John goes on to talk about Brian Fuller leaving the show, and some behind-the-scenes drama.
The guy who got this thing up and running, he left.
And in what we will see is typical Midnight's Edge fashion, they will latch on to any little bit of negativity and try to make a mountain out of a molehill. And here they go with Brian Fuller's departure.
Rumor has it that Leslie Moonves pulled a Tom Rothman and started micromanaging. He allegedly wanted Star Trek Discovery to be more sexed up and look more advanced than any Star Trek series had ever done before. This resulted in the designs of the ships, uniforms, aliens, and pretty much everything else looking effectively like a reboot of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek reboot, and not something that could ever line up with the period in the prime timeline the series is supposed to take place in. Fuller is then said to have warned Moonves that if the look of the show did not match canon and the series appeared as another reboot, the built-in fanbase would hate it. Moonves and Fuller would clash over this, which resulted in Brian Fuller being fired.
So we have this narrative that Brian Fuller was going to make the show too good, basically. He was going to make everything look appropriate with awesome designs that match up with the original series. And Les Moonves at CBS said, no, you're making all this too good. We want everything to be new and different. You're fired. Get out of here. So that is not true. That's not the case at all. We now know that Brian Fuller was always going to redesign the look of the show. He talked about redesigning aliens, redesigning the uniforms. And actually, a lot of this was mentioned when he was still working on the show. So if Midnight's Edge would either A, pay a little bit more attention, or B, not be sensationalist, bordering on dishonesty, then yeah, they probably would have known this, and they probably would have made mention of it. So with Brian Fuller leaving, I genuinely believe that he wanted to bring his Star Trek show to TV. He'd been talking about this idea for a show that he had since 2009, And he had past experience working on Star Trek with Deep Space Nine and Voyager. Really seemed like his heart was in the right place. The thing is, though, is that when he said he would drop everything to work on a Star Trek project,
he has been vocal about his desire to be the showrunner on a new Star Trek series since 2009. In 2014, he stated that he would, quote, drop everything for the opportunity.
Well, he started working on a Star Trek project, and he didn't drop everything. We now know that the big factor in him leaving was that he was taking way too long to get the show going. This is because he was also working on American Gods at the same time he was developing Star Trek Discovery. And American Gods was having some production troubles of their own. And so he was spending as much time working on that show as he was on Star Trek Discovery, and CBS, and also, let's be honest, the fan base were getting pretty impatient. They were wanting the show made, and made quickly. I can understand why fans might be frustrated with the continued delays. I can understand why fans might be frustrated that Brian Fuller was asked to leave. But you can't really be upset about both those things. The firing or removing or asking him to step down, whatever you want to call it, with Brian Fuller, that was a result of the delays. That was the solution to stop them. So if you wanted CBS to hurry up and get the show made, then you have to be okay with them letting Brian Fuller go.
The new showrunners are, however, not Star Trek fans per se.
Have you listened to any interview with any of the writers or producers working on Star Trek Discovery? They are huge Star Trek fans. Akiva Goldsman talks about he's been a Star Trek fan since his childhood, talks about going to an early Star Trek convention in 1977. He wanted to be involved with Star Trek so much, and he says that this is the project that he is the most excited about out of anything he's working on right now. He said this at Star Trek Las Vegas.
It was the first thing I ever loved. It was the first piece of television that I had a relationship with. It is insane that I get to do this. The 14-year-old in me wakes up every day stunned and grateful. I talked JJ into putting me into both movies. I have cameos in both movies. I am so proud and thrilled and moved by doing this that I have actually almost gotten a divorce over it. Because it has become the single most important thing creatively in my life.
And this is a guy who works on so many movies, so many shows. For him to be on Star Trek Discovery and saying that is his number one most important thing that he's working on, that's a huge commitment from a huge Star Trek fan.
One script change that has been rumored to happen since Fuller's departure is that the Prime timeline, for all intents and purposes, will be replaced by trans-dimensional universes, but will still be called Prime. This rumor claims that the story of the pilot involves Spock's father, Sarek, and the explanation of how two other roles played by original Sarek actor Mark Leonard, a Romulan commander and a Klingon commander, were trans-dimensional incarnations of Sarek himself. These and other changes made to the scripts are said to have made them unfilmable.
Now here we go with this Prime timeline shit. Star Trek Discovery is set in the Prime timeline. You can make an argument that it doesn't look like the Prime timeline, that it looks more Kelvin-ish. There's even some truth to that, but it's set in the Prime timeline. They have said this over and over and over and over again. Every time a writer, producer, actor, anyone has been asked, they say, yeah, this is a straight-up prequel to the original series. It is designed to lead into the original series.
We're not in the Kelvin timeline. We're not in the... We're in the, we're the original series timeline. And so we are resonant with those stories. We are the precursor. We're 10 years before TOS.
We are within canon.
It's totally prime, it's totally prime, it's totally prime. It's 100% prime, it's 100% prime, totally prime.
This whole idea of Spock and this trans-dimensional bullshit just sounds completely bizarre and absurd. There's no way they're doing something that weird and complex to explain why Mark Leonard appeared as 3 different alien characters in the original series. You're not even using Mark Leonard on your show. You have James Frain playing Sarek. So there's not even a need to explain why he kind of looks like this Klingon and this Romulan. If there's anything like that in the show, I will literally eat a crow.
The licensees, the various companies that sell model kits, toys, t-shirts, and other apparel, all of which there's a lot of money in, are not too fond of J.J. Abrams' Star Trek reboot, as their audience has demonstrated an overwhelming preference for the merchandise based on the prime incarnation of Star Trek, not the rebooted Kelvin timeline.
Ah, merchandising.
Merchandising. Merchandising? What's that? Merchandising.
A large number of licensees have made it clear that fans will hate the new look, so much so that they won't even be able to give merchandise based on it away, and that many of the licensees therefore are not on board with Star Trek Discovery.
So Midnight's Edge is telling us that the licensees are pissed off about Star Trek Discovery and that they are not making any merchandise because no one will buy it. The show will be so terrible that no one will buy any of this Discovery merch. Well, we've learned a few things since then. We now know that we will have Star Trek Discovery comics from IDW, souvenir magazines from Titan Entertainment, worldwide publishing from Simon & Schuster,
Spaceballs, the coloring book.
Star Trek Discovery weapons for the mobile game Star Trek Timelines, costumes from Rubies, ship models from Eagle Moss, t-shirts from Trevco,
Spaceballs, the lunchbox.
replicas and uniforms from Anovis, calendars from Rosali,
Spaceballs, the breakfast cereal.
toys from McFarlane, prop badges and replicas from QMX, pins from Fansets, and probably a whole lot of other shit that we don't know about yet.
Spaceballs, the flamethrower. The kids love this one.
But after all, they did warn us that these were just rumors and should be taken with a grain of salt. No one else was reporting on these rumors before Midnight's Edge. It does kind of look like they might just be fabrications to get views on YouTube, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They had some bogus insiders feeding them some bogus info, and we can only hope that they would just stop listening to those people and get some better intelligence going forward. And this brings us to the third video I'm going to talk about. Midnight's Edge posted it May 25th, and it is titled Star Trek Discovery, a Reboot and the Axanar Connection. I can't wait to hear what they have to say.
From early on, Star Trek Discovery was mandated to be more futuristic. This resulted in the designs of everything, from uniforms to ships, looking like a sexed-up reboot of the J.J. Abrams Star Trek, and not something that could ever line up with the Star Trek Prime canon.
So this idea that the show doesn't look anything like it could line up with TOS, well, that's completely untrue. You might think that if you had only seen the first trailer and didn't actually have any industry insiders telling you anything and you were just making up shit to spin the show in the most negative light possible. But yeah, we've now had a look at these phasers, the communicator, a tricorder. They all look exactly like stuff that would go into TOS. They're practically the same fucking designs.
Some even worry that the entire series may implode and never be completed, let alone released.
Really? The show may never come out? Yeah, they're just going to spend $6 million per episode and then never expect a return on that investment. Even if you're reporting that as a rumor, that's just stupid. And we now know that's not true. We have a release date of September 24th, less than 3 weeks away. I can't wait. Because not only am I going to get new Star Trek on TV, but I'm going to get to show everyone how Midnight's Edge got basically everything wrong in their predictions about Star Trek Discovery. But now we're going to go into the rumor territory. So this is a pretty sleazy tactic here, where you say a bunch of stuff that's untrue and unconfirmed, then you validate that by saying, okay, now we're going to talk about the rumors. So you've already been speaking about things this whole video that you have no way of confirming, no way of knowing. A lot of the stuff can be disproven now. So you make all that stuff sound more legit by saying, okay, now let's talk about rumors. But yeah, let's talk about the rumors you have to report.
When he was still showrunner, Bryan Fuller insisted that Star Trek Discovery would take place within the Prime timeline. But since he was ousted, most of the work he did on the series has apparently been discarded. By all accounts, the new writers do not want to be bogged down by past continuity, which is part of the reason why Star Trek Discovery is effectively a full-on reboot.
So Discovery is a full-on reboot? No! No, it is not. The writers and producers have said this the entire time. They said it at Star Trek Las Vegas. They said this at Comic-Con. They said it just this weekend at the Fan Expo in Canada. That the show is not a reboot, that it is set in the Prime timeline continuity. So you want me to believe that all these writers and producers are lying to us? And, okay, so the show comes out and it's set in a different timeline, and people aren't going to be like, hey, why did you lie about this? It really doesn't make any sense. If they were going to do it as a reboot, they would want it to be successful as a reboot, and they would tell people ahead of time, okay, get ready for it, it's going to be a reboot.
7 minutes of footage was screened for a test audience consisting of both fans of the original Star Trek Prime series, fans of the Kelvin Timeline movies, and non-fans. Much to the producer's dismay, audiences across the board apparently did not respond well to the visuals of the footage, as only 20% of the audience expressed an interest in seeing the finished series.
Okay, nobody else besides Midnight's Edge reported on this test audience screening. Some people picked up on it after this video came out, but I can't find anything on the internet of people talking about this before this video is published on May 25th. So if you have reports somewhere on the internet that another source posted, let me know. But I'm pretty damn sure this is something that either A, Midnight's Edge has these really knowledgeable insiders that give them a lot of false information and somehow got it right that there was a test screening, or B, this is something made up. I think I know which one's more likely, though.
Akiva Goldsman came aboard in what Variety described as a top creative role, and as producing support for Berg and Harberts, who had just gotten Battlefield promotions to showrunners. Goldsman's involvement with Star Trek Discovery, however, was short-lived. On April 25th, he was announced as the head producer on Warner Bros. DC streaming service, the implication being that he was no longer involved with Star Trek Discovery. According to some rumors, Goldsman was blamed for the ongoing disasters and was fired. According to others, he left what he perceived to be a sinking ship. Regardless, Star Trek Discovery had lost another high-profile writer.
So on to the next rumor. Akiva Goldsman is no longer involved in the show. Well, if that was true, I guess we wouldn't have seen him at Star Trek Las Vegas.
Because it has become the single most important thing creatively in my life.
Oh, he was there.
Also rumored to be out is Alex Kurtzman, writer and producer of the Kelvin Timeline Star Trek movies. With all the conflict and turmoil rumored to be going on behind the scenes, he too is said to have backed out.
Alex Kurtzman has left the show. Well, yeah, except he hasn't. He's still making the rounds, appearing at Comic-Con.
Executive producer Alex Kurtzman.
All over the place, doing interviews with CNET, talking about the show. So, yeah, you got that one wrong too, Midnight's Edge. What else you got?
Much to the dismay of the makers of Star Trek Discovery, quite a few Star Trek fans appear to be more excited by the Star Trek parody, The Orville, than the CBS All-Access exclusive Star Trek Discovery.
The Orville. Man, I'm tired of hearing about the Orville.
Can I have one of these mints?
Those are marbles.
No, I'm not going to tolerate this shit. The Orville is going to be a more legit Star Trek show than the actual Star Trek show. No, you're out of your mind. I'm sorry, but like these gags about not being able to tell marbles from mints, that's just a very stupid, trite humor that I don't really enjoy. I like some of Seth MacFarlane's work, but most of it I'm just not into. You know, I think Family Guy had some good stuff in the early seasons, but it really hasn't been a show that I can enjoy for the majority of its run. I love that he's a big Star Trek fan, and I would love for this to be a great comedy show that is obviously very influenced by Star Trek. I'm not too excited about the trailers, though, and as someone who loves Star Trek more than anything and really wants to see Star Trek on TV again, I can't say that, well, yeah, this is going to scratch that itch more than Star Trek Discovery. And in fact, there are a lot of other Star Trek fans that feel that way. Most of your real hardcore Trekkies, you know, the extreme Trek nerds that dress up as Klingons and go to conventions and all of this stuff, those people are the most excited for Star Trek Discovery. But Midnight's Edge would have you believe that all the fans are just outraged and furious.
The presence and involvement of prolific Star Trek figures like Brandon Braga and Jonathan Frakes implies that the Orville is an endorsement by the traditional stewards of Star Trek, none of which are involved with Star Trek Discovery in any capacity.
Okay, so this is clearly a false statement right here. This is a straight-up lie that they are reporting as a fact. That no writers from the Prime timeline shows that have existed in Star Trek history are working on Star Trek Discovery. No, we have Nicholas Meyer is working on the show. We have Joe Menosky. He did work on TNG and Voyager. We have Kristen Bear, who never worked on a show, but she was a huge Star Trek fan and wrote 11 Star Trek Voyager novels, and they call her like the keeper of the canon in the writer's room. And she knows her Prime timeline shit. So yeah, it is a straight up lie to say, without Brian Fuller, there's no Prime timeline writers involved. So that's a lie. So yeah, with this video, we're definitely getting into some false information. I can't imagine that their insiders are giving them all of this bad info if they're legit insiders. It really sounds like people are just making this stuff up, and they're flat out lying. Moving on, we have a fourth video to talk about. This one's from June 29th and is titled Star Trek Discovery to be replaced by Nicholas Meyer's new series. So this idea that Nicholas Meyer is working on another Star Trek show that's going to be different than Star Trek Discovery, it started a few months ago. He was giving an interview. He did say that he was working on another Star Trek project, but didn't give any additional information. And some people are thinking that that might be another show, since there doesn't seem to be any Star Trek movies in development. But it could be anything. It could be a novel, it could be a comic book. We don't know. But I really, really doubt that they're going to replace Star Trek Discovery with this Nick Myers show.
We learned that Michael Burnham will be Spock's previously unheard of adopted human sister, among many other things, which represents significant departures from past canon.
So yeah, the character Michael Burnham is going to be raised by Sarek and Amanda. They basically adopt her after her parents die. This is no secret. This is something that we've been talking about for a while now. And the idea that fans are outraged by that is totally bogus. I do see some people complain about it on the internet, I'm not going to lie. But if you go to where the hardcore Trekkies hang out, if you go to the Star Trek groups on Facebook, if you listen to the Star Trek podcasts online, you're not hearing outrage about this. In fact, if anything, a lot of people who are really familiar with the canon and the continuity, they know that Spock having a secret foster sister wouldn't be that unusual. This is the same guy who had a secret half-brother he didn't tell anyone about. He had a secret fiance he didn't tell anyone about. He had this big famous ambassador as his dad. He didn't tell anyone about that, so Spock doesn't exactly talk about his family very often. But yeah, that's something that the people who are really plugged into the Trek lore understand and are aware of. But again, it's easier to stir the pot and say a lot of people are mad about this. Oh, come on. Do we really have to talk about this timeline shit?
Months prior to the trailer ever being released, we at Midnight's Edge had already discovered the rumors emanating from the production that Star Trek Discovery was indeed another reboot. One that would not line up with either the Prime or rebooted Kelvin timelines, but create a timeline all of its own following a universe-altering event, directly or indirectly said to be brought on by Sarek.
Yeah, still betting that ain't gonna happen.
But there is also a corporate reason why Discovery will not and cannot be part of the Prime universe.
Oh, do tell.
This brings us to the reason why Discovery has visual similarities with the Kelvin timeline movies, but virtually none with the Prime timeline TV series. Star Trek Discovery is made under Paramount and Bad Robot's alternative license.
No! No! This is straight up wrong. Bad Robot and Paramount aren't production companies on Star Trek Discovery. This is a total lie. Midnight's Edge is either so fucking stupid that they're unable to get their facts straight, or they're just shitty asshole liars. Either way, this is not true. But here's the problem, and this is why their videos are pissing me off so much, is that I saw a lot of people regurgitating this shit, saying that Paramount and Bad Robot are making Star Trek Discovery, and that's why everything is going to look different and it'll never be connected to the original series or the Prime timeline shows that we all know and love. And, you know, like I said, a lot of your hardcore Trek fans on the internet are still very positive and very excited about Star Trek Discovery. But YouTube is full of people ready to bash this show. It's unbelievable. The contrast is like night and day. You get on YouTube and everyone is just commenting how the show is going to be a failure. I know I get these comments on my videos sometimes. I go to other places. I go check out the Trek FM podcast. I go to the Star Trek Discovery fan groups that are on Facebook. People there are a lot different than the assholes on YouTube that just want to write this show off, but they're being fed these lies from Midnight's Edge. You know, I see other channels that are quoting this bullshit. That's not true, and it went so far that after this video came out, somebody updated IMDb to list Paramount and Bad Robot as production companies on Star Trek Discovery. But that's not true. You can check every official announcement, every legit information dump that we've gotten from CBS. Paramount and Bad Robot have nothing to do with this show. Yeah, Alex Kurtzman is involved as a writer, but he's separate from Bad Robot and Paramount.
While the first movie made under Paramount's alternate license was a huge hit, the follow-up, Into Darkness, underperformed, while Star Trek Beyond bombed outright, despite overall positive fan reception. After ancillary revenue was accounted for, the movie might have lost Paramount and its investors more than $50 million. Between Bomb Factory, Paramount's precarious financial state, made even worse by the latest Transformers movie bombing, and contractually rising Star Trek cast costs, Paramount are unlikely to take a risk on another theatrical Star Trek anytime soon. However, Paramount, Bad Robot, and the investors behind them do not wish to lose their alternate Star Trek copyright, and allegedly came up with the idea of using the TV series as a means to extend it. While the series was greenlit by Les Moonves as a means to promote CBS All Access, it is made under Paramount and Bad Robot's license, which is why Bad Robot is a production company, and Alex Kurtzman, writer and producer of Bad Robot's Kelvin timeline movies, serves as an executive producer on Discovery.
And so you're telling me that Star Trek Beyond and the last Michael Bay Transformers movie were so bad that they crippled Paramount so much that Paramount made the choice a year earlier to finance a Star Trek Discovery show? Like, did they know that Star Trek Beyond was going to underperform? Did they know that the Transformers movie was going to underperform? And so they were like, yeah, well, we can keep our Star Trek license, but don't have to make a whole Star Trek movie if we make a TV show for CBS, who is actually capable of making a TV show themselves. Like, the fuck? Oh, fan response. Let's see how accurate this is.
While fans were quite welcoming to the idea of a new Star Trek series, especially one set in the Prime timeline, it being another prequel instead of moving forward and taking place after Nemesis rubbed many the wrong way. That it would be used as a means to sell CBS's fledgling online subscription service, All Access, also brought back memories of when Enterprise was used the same way to promote UPN, which did not work out well for that series.
Actually, that was Star Trek Voyager that was used to promote UPN back when UPN launched with the premiere episode of Star Trek Voyager in 1995. Yeah, Enterprise was also on UPN, but it wasn't the main flagship show like Star Trek Voyager was. But yeah, whatever. That's a small little technicality, and I'm not surprised that you ass fucks couldn't even get that right.
There were a few users in the blogger and Twitter sphere that complained about a perceived lack of diversity due to there being so few Caucasians on screen.
And here we go. So there's a thing about people on YouTube. A lot of them tend to be this anti-SJW group, and I don't know why YouTube's such a popular place for that type of crowd. But yeah, if you want to get popular on YouTube, you attack at SJWs. You paint all social justice warriors as these white genocidal maniacs that want to replace everything with minorities, and you make it sound like diversity is the bad guy, is the bad thing. And then you say, well, anyone who is anyone trying to have a diverse cast on their show or movie, they're the enemy. Even though this is something that Star Trek has taken pride in doing for 50 fucking years. But no, it's the Star Trek Discovery. They're the bad SJWs, and I want all you anti-SJWs on YouTube to like me. I see channels do this all the time to get popularity, just because there is that group on YouTube that they're dumb enough to get behind anyone who's telling them what they want to hear. So Midnight's Edge has done this with Wonder Woman, they did this with Ghostbusters, they did it a little bit with Star Wars. It's just a very trashy way to get more views.
Behind the scenes, many of the higher-ups are rumored to already have written Discovery off. Unless it surprises everyone out of the gate and connects with audiences in a major way, the series is allegedly due for cancellation, and a number of actors involved are said to have instructed their agents to find them other gigs from December onwards.
Oh, here we go. This is good. So CBS is going to pull the plug on Star Trek Discovery. All of the people working on the show are planning on jumping ship, and they're going to cancel the show basically and then create another Star Trek show. They're going to call this a big anthology series and say it was the plan all along. No. We already have Alex Kurtzman and other people talking about they have plans for a second season and possibly even a third season. The show has been paid for by Netflix with the overseas distribution deal that they made. So it's pretty much a fucking guarantee that we'll get a second season of Star Trek Discovery. And as far as their model with CBS All Access, Les Moonves said at an investors meeting a year ago that CBS All Access needs to grow to 4 million subscribers by 2020. They're currently at 1 million, and they want that number to go to 4 million. That's going to be pretty easy to do if you have some original shows on there. Star Trek Discovery is probably going to get them a additional 2 million subscribers pretty easy if the show is good as a lot of us think it will be. And they have some other shows that they're developing. That's going to be very realistic that they get the 4 million. That's not that high of a number. Again, like, they don't even run shows on CBS that have 4 million viewers per episode total. They expect everything to get 5.5 million views per episode. If you look at what they've canceled and what they've renewed this last year. So yeah, they're expecting CBS All Access with all of the original shows that they're going to be putting on there next to Star Trek Discovery, if that can just get to 4 million subscribers, they're already at 1 million, this need to go 3 million more by 2020. I think Star Trek Discovery is going to be around. Worst case scenario, it'll be around for 3 or 4 seasons because they're going to want to get to that 4 million subscriber goal that they've set for themselves.
But outright canceling such a high-profile series after just 1 year wouldn't just be profoundly embarrassing for CBS. It could further devalue the entire Star Trek brand, which is why CBS has a backup plan. Since June, you may have heard that Nicholas Meyer, director of Wrath of Khan and executive producer on Star Trek Discovery, has said he is working on another Star Trek project, but without providing any further details on what this project is. Apparently, Meyer has been instructed by CBS to drop these little bits of information for the express purpose of letting the fanbase know that something is in the works, and to give them something else to speculate on other than Discovery's perceived shortcomings. Word is that the project Meyer is working on is indeed another Star Trek series, one that will be lined up to replace Discovery in the not wholly unlikely event that it ends up being cancelled. Meyer's replacement series is rumored to actually take place in the Prime Universe, and generally be more along the lines of what fans would expect of a Star Trek series. If this ends up being the route taken, CBS's rumored plan is to save face by rebranding Discovery as a Star Trek anthology series, and to claim that the Discovery storyline was never meant to last more than 1 season, American Horror Story style. Meyer's completely unrelated project would then be marketed as Season 2 of this Star Trek anthology series, despite it for all intents and purposes being a completely different series.
Now, this whole anthology shit, that was an early rumor that Star Trek, whatever the new show is going to be called, we didn't even know it was Discovery yet. But the idea was that it would be like American Horror Story, where every season is a completely different setup, or like True Detective. You would do one series where it's set in the 23rd century around like the Kirk era, and then the next one would be further in the future, and you could just jump around the timeline, do whatever. We now know that that was originally Brian Fuller's idea. CBS didn't like that, and they said, why don't we just stick with one thing? It makes sense to me. You're going to build all these sets and stuff, find all these actors. You want to continue to reuse that year after year. But that idea of there being an anthology show, I guess, is still hanging around in some people's minds. And even though the producers and writers are saying, yeah, we're mapping out the 2nd and 3rd season, Midnight's Edge is telling us, oh, there's absolutely no plan to do that. Why the fuck did they extend the season from 13 episodes to 15 episodes? Why did they increase the budget from $6.5 million per episode to $8 million per episode? I can't promise that Discovery will be good, but I can promise that CBS is very confident in it, and they're putting a lot into this show. They're not going to pull the plug on it after 1 season. I still really doubt that Nick Meyer is working on an entire show by himself. His real involvement on Star Trek Discovery is he's more of like a consultant in the writer's room. I don't think he's the guy who's going to be heading up this entire TV show and running the whole TV show. He's never done anything like that in his life and his career, and I don't think that's his style. But whatever, that's all conclusions I'm reaching through rational observation of facts, and that doesn't seem to be Midnight's Edge's style. But it's easy to make up these rumors. See, check this out. Entering the rumor zone. Keep in mind that all of this is unconfirmed and should be taken with a metric ton of salt. But here at Tex-Trek, we have heard whispers that Gene Roddenberry will be digitally resurrected and will be playing the part of Captain Robert April on Star Trek Discovery. In fact, we can also report that Midnight's Edge will not know this information because we have insiders there who have told us that they're a complete mess behind closed doors. They've actually resorted to fabricating rumors and stating outright falsehoods as facts in an effort to get more views and also popularize the upcoming Fox show, The Orville, because they secretly suck Seth MacFarlane's dick. See, it's easy. Anyone can do it. And who knows? I might be right. I might not be. But hell, if it'll get me views, why not say it? And also, just what is their obsession with the Orville? I mean, listen to this.
Seth MacFarlane said what Star Trek fans no doubt wish the Discovery showrunners had said instead. In this day and age of dystopian science fiction where everything is grim and dark and depressing, I think there is an appetite, and I think it has been for a while, for a show that is aspirational and optimistic and can maybe provide a blueprint for a future we could have if we get our shit together.
Okay, except Star Trek Discovery writers have said extremely similar stuff. Go read the Entertainment Weekly interviews they did. I mean, sure, if you've just watched the trailers, I could kind of get how someone might think the show is going to be a lot darker than typical Star Trek, and, you know, maybe they're right. But that doesn't mean that those core optimistic values won't be there. You know, I've seen Star Trek Deep Space Nine. I know that you can have both. You can have your serious story that has, you know, consequences and life and death and that weight to it, but still have a optimistic future that's worthy of aspiration. Based on what the writers and producers and actors have said, that's what we're getting. That's what it looks like. But it's easier to get views on YouTube if you say, like, no, it's doomed, it's going to be terrible, I'm going to make up these rumors, I'm going to make up these outright falsehoods about how the licenses work and try to tell everyone it's not in the prime timeline. And just continue to push this idea that all the fans are pissed off. Well, you know what? I've talked to some Star Trek fans about what they think about Midnight's Edge and how you're covering Star Trek Discovery and how you're clearly making up shit about Star Trek Discovery. Here's what some of the fans had to say. Yeah, that Midnight Edge garbage is pure clickbait. Fake news trash. Seems like they shill for Fox. Those Midnight's Edge guys are just angry clickbait YouTubers. This is all speculation and conjecture, and is all fake news. No verifiable facts with statements like, the entire fan base hates the trailer, and all the fans are upset at the changes to established races. It's bullshit, frankly. Midnight's Edge is absolute clickbait crap. I banned them from every group I admin. I'm not giving oxygen to their garbage fires. If there is such a thing as anti-Star Trek activism, it's Midnight's Edge. I knew those guys were insecure, arrogant D-bags within seconds. Gave me a chuckle, laughing at them, not with them, LOL. So here's my final plea. If you care about actual, factual Star Trek-related news, please, by all means, stay the hell away from Midnight's Edge. You're not going to get it there. I don't know what else I need to do to prove that to you. But yeah, these guys have a weird agenda, and telling the truth about Star Trek Discovery does not seem to be part of it. But let me wrap things up by telling you where you can find some good sources for Star Trek news. These are places where I like to go to get information and hear people's opinions. And I'm going to share that with you. So number one would probably be the Trek Yards channel here on YouTube. If you're a super big major fan who's just obsessed with every little technical detail of the show, like especially if you're into the ships, that's pretty much what they do on Trek Yards. Is they look at everything in the show, from phasers to communicators to ships. So they do spend a lot of time comparing different ship designs, and they go as far as actually interviewing some of the designers. Whenever there's a new trailer for Star Trek Discovery, though, they will go in frame by frame, look at every hallway, every piece of technology, every computer display, every alien, and compare that to all the past images we have. And that's your super hardcore, deep dive into past Star Trek continuity and comparing that to what we're seeing with Discovery. That's where you're going to find that type of stuff. If you're just more interested in hearing about the show, the developments going into it, the writers and actors and that type of stuff, then Irish Trekkie and his channel here on YouTube is going to be a good place to go. He has the Nerd Escape podcast with the Trek collector, Chris T. Judge. And anytime there's some new information about the show, they talk about it. They give factual information that's verifiable. And they're also pretty optimistic about the show. So if you're looking for a more positive take on Star Trek Discovery, check out Irish Trekkie. We also have Kurtzman Productions. This is ran by Dan Gunther, who is a really nice guy. His videos are very professionally made. He will break down all of the new Star Trek news anytime that there's new developments on books, movies, shows, merchandise. He's your go-to for all of the Star Trek news as far as things that are on the horizon, things that are coming out soon. He's also on the Literary Treks podcast that you can find on Trek FM, and that's another place to go if you're more interested in a podcast than YouTube channels. They have any topic you could think of on Star Trek, from podcasts dedicated to each shows to podcasts dedicated to the books, like Literary Treks. They even have a podcast for the Star Trek fan films. So if you go to Trek FM, you'll find really great information from really great Star Trek fans. And like I said, those are all the places I go to get my information, just, hear what other people are thinking about Star Trek. It's a very different picture than the one Midnight's Edge is trying to paint for you. So yeah, those guys are pretty much untrustworthy liars who just want your views and have no interest in informing you or giving intelligent, well-thought-out opinions. So, all y'all can live long and prosper, except for Midnight's Edge.
You just got knocked the fuck out. The punishment fits the crime. Keep your head held high. You'll find out why that this racist ain't afraid to fly. Yeah, you just got knocked the fuck out. The punishment fits the crime.
You can eat quantum torpedoes and die in a fire.
The first duty of every Starfleet officer is to the truth, whether it's scientific truth, or historical truth, or personal truth. It is the guiding principle on which Starfleet is based. Now, if you can't find it within yourself to stand up and tell the truth about what happened, you don't deserve to wear that uniform.
Thank all of you so much for checking out this installment of Tex-Trek. I hope you enjoyed it. Please be sure to like our YouTube videos and subscribe to our channel. Audio-only version of episodes are available at our website, www.tex-trek.com. Please check out our site, especially if you just want an audio-only podcast. We have that available for you. Y'all can also keep up with us online. You can follow us on Twitter, @TXTrek, or you can check us out on Facebook at www.facebook.com/tex-trek. Please, by all means, let us know what you think by dropping a comment anywhere you see fit. We definitely want to hear your feedback. Let us know what you liked and what you would like to see more of, what you would like to see differently going forward. If you want to email me directly, go ahead. I can be reached at fatherlyactual@tex-trek.com. Thank all y'all again. Take care.